The modern bedroom is a perfectly engineered biological prison. While the average person spends countless hours tracking sleep cycles, meditating, and consuming premium magnesium supplements, they remain completely oblivious to the silent, invisible forces dissecting their nervous system every single night. The true cause of chronic human exhaustion is not a lack of rest, nor is it a lack of discipline. It is a severe, invisible environmental poisoning. Spaces designed for absolute recovery have been transformed into toxic chambers that actively drain cellular energy, mutate hormonal rhythms, and castrate the biological baseline. The safety of the modern home is a lethal illusion. Optimization is mathematically impossible when the environment itself is hostile to human biology. Attempting to achieve elite cognitive performance while living inside a standard modern home is exactly like trying to heal a deep, bleeding wound while continuously bathing in contaminated water. Society operates under the fatal misconception that closing the bedroom door guarantees safety. In reality, the bedroom, the office, and the living room are filled with silent, invisible drains that systematically siphon electricity from the central nervous system. This is the hidden truth behind the modern epidemic of chronic exhaustion. The danger does not stem from working too hard. It comes from the artificial frequencies, toxic illumination, and unseen biological stressors that actively rot human neurobiology on a cellular level. In this clinical breakdown, the invisible environmental drains destroying elite human performance will be entirely exposed. The precise neurological damage caused by artificial light, electromagnetic radiation, and indoor air toxicity will be dissected down to the molecular level. By the end of this protocol, the exact mechanisms keeping the masses permanently fatigued will be obvious, and the required methods to shield the nervous system will be laid out. Attention is mandatory. Ignorance of the immediate environment is a biological death sentence. The most aggressive, pervasive, and completely ignored poison in modern society is fake light. Observe any standard room after sunset. LED bulbs, glowing screens, digital alarm clocks, and fluorescent panels completely dominate the visual field. Society views artificial light as a harmless technological convenience. Clinical biology views it as a severe, devastating endocrine disruptor. Fake light is an evolutionary shock. To understand the immense neurological damage caused by artificial illumination, the deep biology of the suprachiasmatic nucleus must be examined. The suprachiasmatic nucleus is the master biological clock located deep within the hypothalamus. For millions of years of human evolution, this master clock was calibrated by one single, absolute variable, the rotation of the Earth and the presence of the sun. When the sun rises, the brain receives a massive influx of full-spectrum light, triggering the release of cortisol and initiating daytime alertness. When the sun sets, the sudden absence of blue light signals the pineal gland to begin the massive synthesis and release of melatonin, the neurohormone strictly responsible for cellular repair and deep sleep architecture. Modern technology has completely annihilated this ancient, delicate biological rhythm. The human retina contains highly specialized receptors known as intrinsically photosensitive retinal ganglion cells, or IPRGCs. These cells do not see shapes, they do not see text, and they do not see colors. They exist for one singular purpose: to detect light intensity and specific wavelengths, predominantly in the 460 to 480 nanometer range. This is the exact wavelength of blue light. When a glowing screen or a standard LED bulb emits concentrated blue light directly into the eyes at 10 o'clock at night, these receptors send a frantic, synthetic, and completely false signal to the brain. They tell the master clock that it is solar noon. The brain registers the environment as midday. Despite the physical body being exhausted from 14 hours of wakefulness, the biological consequence is immediate, chemical, and devastating. The pineal gland instantly halts all melatonin production. The brain is chemically tricked into a state of daytime alertness. This creates a severe circadian mismatch. The hardware is told to run at maximum capacity, but the battery is completely empty. Sleep architecture is chemically castrated. Without adequate melatonin surging through the cerebrospinal fluid, falling asleep becomes an agonizing psychological battle. But more importantly, the depth and quality of that sleep are entirely compromised. The brain completely fails to enter the restorative delta wave phases. Delta sleep is not a luxury, it is the exact phase where the glymphatic system activates. The glymphatic system is the brain's waste clearance mechanism. It flushes out amyloid beta plaques and tau proteins, the toxic metabolic waste products generated by daily cognition. A brain that sleeps under the influence of artificial blue light fails to activate this clearance system. It wakes up biologically inflamed, foggy, and fundamentally damaged. The modern individual wonders why their memory is failing, why their focus is shattered, and why they require dangerous amounts of caffeine just to function, completely unaware that staring at a screen after dark is actively inducing low-grade neurological decay. Defending the circadian rhythm from fake light is not an internet biohacking trend. It is the absolute non-negotiable foundation of human physiological sanity. However, artificial light is only the first layer of the environmental trap. There is a secondary, far more insidious frequency draining cellular energy every single second of the day and night. Electromagnetic fields or non-ionizing radiation. The air is saturated with invisible fire. The modern home is heavily saturated with Wi-Fi routers, Bluetooth devices, smart appliances, and cellular towers broadcasting constantly. Mainstream safety guidelines frequently suggest that non-ionizing radiation is entirely harmless because it does not possess the thermal energy required to instantly cook tissue or mutate DNA. This is a gross, dangerous oversimplification of cellular biology. Clinical research into human electrophysiology reveals a much darker, much more complex reality. Every single cell in the human body operates on an incredibly delicate electrical gradient. The nervous system is quite literally a bioelectrical network. Embedded within the outer membrane of human cells are microscopic structures known as voltage, gated calcium channels, or BGCCs. These channels act as microscopic doors, regulating the flow of calcium ions into the cell to trigger vital biological processes, including neurotransmitter release, muscle contraction, and hormone secretion. Advanced neurobiological studies indicate that these voltage-gated calcium channels are hypersensitive to the specific microwave frequencies emitted by modern wireless technology. The electrical tension required to open these channels is remarkably low. When a human body is constantly submerged in an invisible ocean of Wi-Fi and cellular signals, these microscopic doors are artificially and continuously forced open. The cells are flooded with chaos. Massive, unnatural, and unregulated influx of calcium floods into the cells. Intracellular calcium is strictly meant to be highly regulated. When an overload occurs, it triggers a catastrophic biochemical cascade. The excess calcium forces the cell to produce massive amounts of nitric oxide and superoxide. These two molecules immediately combine to form peroxynitrite. Peroxynitrite is not a standard free radical. It is one of the most damaging, destructive, and volatile molecules known to human biology. This specific process generates extreme, relentless oxidative stress inside the body. The mitochondria, the microscopic energy-producing powerhouses of the cell, are severely damaged by this oxidative fire. Because the mitochondria are under attack, the production of ATP, the fundamental currency of cellular energy, plummets drastically. The body is placed into a chronic, invisible, microscopic state of fight or flight. The nervous system is constantly, desperately defending itself against an unseen enemy that penetrates the walls of the bedroom. This is the exact biological reason why individuals living in highly connected, smart home environments frequently suffer from unexplained brain fog, chronic anxiety, tension headaches, and relentless lethargy. The biological battery is quite literally leaking its energy into the surrounding environment. The electrical integrity of the cell is compromised. Ignoring EMF hygiene is a mathematical guarantee of cellular exhaustion. The third invisible drain involves the very element required for basic survival: the air. The modern obsession with outdoor pollution has entirely blinded society to the devastating, suffocating toxicity of indoor air. Modern homes are sealed toxic boxes. To maximize energy efficiency and reduce heating costs, modern buildings are constructed to be entirely airtight. Windows do not open. Natural airflow is virtually non-existent. Homes are essentially sealed plastic containers. As a result, the indoor environment becomes a concentrated, inescapable reservoir of volatile organic compounds, or VOCs. These are highly toxic, invisible gases continuously emitted by synthetic carpets, fresh paint, cheap particle board furniture, flame retardants on mattresses, and standard chemical cleaning products. Simultaneously, in a sealed bedroom with 2 sleeping adults and the door closed, carbon dioxide levels rise exponentially throughout the night. Humans exhale CO2. In an unventilated room, that CO2 has nowhere to go. By 3 a.m., the oxygen concentration in the room is significantly depleted, replaced by a thick, heavy soup of recycled carbon dioxide and synthetic chemical off-gassing. The human brain, despite making up only 2% of total body weight, requires 20% of the body's total oxygen supply to function and repair itself. When sleeping in an airtight, VOC-heavy environment with rising CO2 levels, the brain is subjected to 8 continuous hours of microhypoxia. It is slowly, quietly suffocating. Because oxygen levels are dropping, the body enters a biological stress response simply to maintain baseline oxygen saturation in the blood. The heart rate remains elevated. The respiratory rate becomes shallow and panicked. A nervous system cannot power down into the deep parasympathetic recovery state required for healing. Waking up with a heavy head, a dry mouth, a profound sense of lethargy, and immediate brain fog is not a sign of poor sleep duration. It is the direct, undeniable biological symptom of indoor air poisoning. Brain spent the entire night fighting for air instead of consolidating memories. The baseline is being eroded for free. These three environmental factors, fake light, EMF radiation, and toxic air, form an invisible, lethal triad of biological destruction. They are the hidden truth behind the modern energy crisis. They do not kill the host immediately. That is precisely what makes them so dangerous, and that is precisely why they are ignored by the masses. Instead, they operate through the slow, silent, relentless compounding of cellular damage. They erode the capacity for elite focus. They drain the raw neurochemical motivation required to build empires. They reduce high-potential, intelligent individuals into foggy, exhausted, docile consumers who must rely on synthetic stimulants just to stare at a screen for 8 hours a day. The elite do not tolerate this level of biological vulnerability. True high performance is impossible without absolute sovereignty over the immediate physical environment. The human body cannot heal in the exact same toxic environment that broke it. It is time to stop playing the victim to unexplained fatigue. It is time to implement the environmental shielding protocol. How to reclaim absolute biological power. Step 1. Eradicate artificial light after sunset with extreme prejudice. The suprachiasmatic nucleus must receive the biological signal of absolute darkness. Install red bulbs in the bedroom. Red light does not trigger the melanopsin receptors and leaves melatonin production intact. Utilize clinical software to eliminate all blue spectrum light from digital screens at least 2 hours before sleep. If screen use is absolutely mandatory for late-night work, clinical-grade blue light blocking glasses with deeply tinted red lenses must be worn. Protect melatonin synthesis as if life depends on it, because cognitive function absolutely does. Step 2. Mitigate the invisible radiation. The bedroom must become an absolute biological sanctuary, not a technological hub. Turn the Wi-Fi router off completely at night. Hardwire internet connections wherever possible. Remove all wireless electronics, smartwatches, and broadcasting devices from the immediate sleeping area. Switch cellular devices to airplane mode before they enter the room. By eliminating the microwave frequencies, the voltage-gated calcium channels are allowed to close. The relentless oxidative stress is halted, allowing the mitochondria to repair themselves and synthesize massive amounts of ATP undisturbed. Step 3. Force ventilation and aggressively oxygenate the environment. A sealed room is a toxic room. Open windows before sleep to flush out the accumulated carbon dioxide and volatile organic compounds. Introduce highly filtered moving air into the space using a HEPA filtration system. Ensure the brain has an absolute surplus of pure, clean oxygen throughout the entire 8-hour recovery cycle. The standard has been permanently raised. These specific environmental actions require almost zero financial investment, yet they are infinitely more powerful than any exotic supplement, nootropic, or biohacking gadget on the market. They require only the intellectual maturity to recognize that the modern environment is fundamentally hostile to human biology and the discipline to modify that environment. Stop accepting chronic fatigue, brain fog, and low motivation as a normal state of existence. The human nervous system is the most sophisticated, highly calibrated biological machine in the known universe. When the invisible poisons are systematically removed from the environment, the resulting surge in mental clarity, elite focus, and limitless physical energy will feel almost superhuman. In reality, it is not superhuman at all. It is simply the natural, intended state of a biologically shielded human being. Do not allow the engineered modern world to quietly drain your evolutionary potential. Take absolute, uncompromising control of the environment. If the objective is to master human neurobiology, eliminate exhaustion, and achieve absolute cognitive dominance, check the links in the description below right now to access the exact tools, advanced shielding protocols, and resources required to secure the biological baseline. Stop falling for the illusion of safety. Subscribe to the channel to join the minority who operate on clinical data, not mainstream illusions. The science is absolute. Shield the nervous system. Execute the protocol. See you in the next one.